Ladies and gentlemen, all, you are looking beautiful. And I can say that for those who are in front of me in the lecture theater. I'm not able to see those who are online, but I believe you are doing just great. It's so good to have you all with us today for this, the second day of our research conference. I'd like to acknowledge those who are here with us. Dr. Winston Adams, joining us online, UCC Group Executive Chairman. Mrs. Geraldine Adams, UCC Group Deputy Executive Chairman. Our keynote speaker for today, Dr. Carey Wallace. Professor Bernadette Warner, UCC Deputy President. Professor John Fulton, and Professor Sheila, good to have you. Dr. Andrea Sutherland, Dean, College of Graduate Studies and Research, UCC. Dr. Philip Anyanwu, Public Health Specialist from Warwick University. Dr. Sheila Paul, or Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs here at UCC. Pastor Samuel Lewis, our University Chaplain. Heads of department, faculty members, presenters, moderators, panelists, chairpersons, other academic partners and affiliates, staff, alumni, students, members of the media, all. A pleasant good morning to you. Good morning. Thank you. I see that you are awake and alive. And as Pastor Lewis prayed, it wasn't the alarm clock that woke you up. It was the power of God. Colleagues, I'm delighted to welcome you to the second day of our research conference. And it is indeed a pleasure to give these welcoming remarks. I must say that the conference has been excellent so far. I found yesterday's sessions to be truly inspiring, and I hope you found the presentations and discussions as engaging as I did. I'm sure that you will agree with me that we left not only with a feeling of accomplishment and satisfaction, but also of enlightenment. The sessions were on point, the discussions enriching, and I believe that they achieved their objectives of surfacing and challenging some of the issues in navigating new horizons relating to innovations in tourism for sustainable development. Our program today will be no less. The program features an exciting lineup of keynote presentations, panel discussions, presentations of papers, and much more. We will continue to delve deeper into the theme of navigating new horizons, innovations in tourism for sustainable development. We will hear from our keynote speaker, Dr. Carey Wallace, and we will have a presentation on healthcare and tourism. In addition, there will be presentations of papers on topics such as thinking otherwise, decolonial approaches to research in business and tourism, navigating new horizons, exploring the deleterious impact of tourism on infrastructure and service delivery, a Jamaican case study, and so many other things. As we mentioned yesterday, sustainable development is closely linked with our tourism product. And as a small island developing state, we know the impact that can be had on our tourism product by issues relating to climate change, issues relating to our environment, and of course, at the heart of our tourism product is the beautiful, lovely, well-preserved natural environment that we have here in Jamaica. And we must do all that we can to preserve it, because after all, persons do not visit Jamaica just to be in a hotel room. And I know when many people think of being a tourist, they may think about vacation where you relax and so on, and that's quite fine. But more and more, we know that people want more than just to be by themselves. They want to experience the culture. They want to experience the environment. They want to move around and understand Jamaican life. They want to meet the people. And so sustainable development in terms of integrating and involving the people of the country is so critical to the success of our tourism journey. You'll also be able to view UCC journals and participate in a workshop on writing journal publications. And this is particularly important for our students. Also, there will be a lineup of several more exciting items on the program. My encouragement to everyone for today is to continue to engage deeply with the presentations, the discussions, and workshops, challenge assumptions, broaden your perspectives, and explore fresh ideas and practical solutions. I want to especially remind our students of the importance of research as an important tool in facilitating learning and creating or enhancing knowledge. In this regard, I encourage students to actively participate in the sessions so that you can leave with enhanced knowledge and the confidence to excel in your chosen field. I must once again commend our volunteers and our organizers for their tireless work in making this conference a huge success. I would also like to recognize in advance presenters who will enthusiastically share their expertise, moderators who will skillfully guide the discussions and ensure a productive exchange of ideas, panelists whom I am sure will provide thought-provoking perspectives and stimulating discussions, and of course, chairpersons for ably facilitating and coordinating the panel discussions. I'd like to also recognize all our participants, those who are coming from our high schools, those who are coming from other tertiary institutions, and those who are sitting in on these presentations as a part of your own course of study here at the UCC. There's hardly anything better than hearing from the experts themselves. And that is one of the things that we promote here at UCC. As our motto goes, fostering leadership and what? Innovation. We believe that the best way to innovate is to hear directly from persons who are themselves innovators. And so we were happy to have the Honorable Minister, Dr. the Honorable Edmund Bartlett, last presentation, yesterday, presenting on some of the key aspects of Jamaica's success that he's now gone to the United Nations to speak about. So you are fortunate. You would have gotten a glimpse or have gotten a snippet, a bit of what the world is yet to get. You were first. And I'm saying to you that in a similar way, today we have Dr. Carey Wallace and other experts who will share from their own experience the realities that have helped to make for Jamaica's success. And you know, it's interesting that while Minister was speaking yesterday, it struck me very acutely that tourism is one niche area of success in Jamaica. that actually touches on almost every facet of life. Whether it is engineering in providing sustainable energy to power our tourism infrastructure, whether it is going to be business-related matters in terms of the hospitality, or it is in terms of investment, whatever aspect of life you can think about, tourism has some element in it or some place in it for those skills. And so this conference opens up for us the opportunity to see the many areas of life in which our expertise can be utilized to strengthen our tourism product. It is Jamaica's #1 earner, and it is fragile. You have to take care of it. And the best way to take care of it is to be involved. Ladies and gentlemen, let us make today just as productive and inspiring as yesterday. Thank you all for your support, those who are here in person and those who are joining us online. Once again, welcome to day 2 of this, our research conference, and a treat awaits you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Giles, for those inspiring remarks. And ladies and gentlemen, today's keynote presentation will be delivered by Dr. Carey Wallace. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Wallace. An incredibly driven professional with passion, depth of experience, and a track record for success. Dr. Carey Wallace, Executive Director of the Tourism Enhancement Fund since March 1, 2017, is responsible for directing and managing the agency in fulfilling its mandate of promoting growth and development in the local tourism sector. Prior to joining TEF, Dr. Wallace was a senior consultant at T2 UK Limited, one of the world's leading providers of psycholinguistics, where he guided blue chip clients to optimum operational and customer performance. In addition, he led T2's growth strategy through new product development, the expansion into new international markets. Dr. Wallace's experience in tourism spans 25 years. He held the position of Chief Executive Officer of S. Manley Wallace and Sons for 13 years, using his aptitude for business to expand the family's enterprise from a one hotel to a group of companies, including 3 hotels, a shopping mall, and a nightclub. Dr. Wallace holds a doctorate in philosophy in social psychology from Cardiff University in Wales, MBA in finance from Cornell University in New York, a BSc in computer science from the University of the West Indies, Bona. Additionally, he is a certified project management professional and is proficient in conversational German and Spanish. Dr. Wallace is incredibly driven and has passion, experience, and a track record of success, and is here this morning to share that with us. So join me in welcoming Dr. Carey Wallace, our keynote speaker.
Good morning. I'm humbled to be in front of you amazing Jamaicans, amazing and brilliant Jamaicans. In fact, how many of you are uh, doing a bachelor's degree? By show of hands? A few. How many are doing a master's? How about a PhD? The PhD's in there? All right, great. And the rest of you are in high school doing subjects, CAPE? No? They're all tertiary. Associate's degrees. Let me see the hands. Okay, good. All right, excellent. Long story short is that you represent the cream of the crop of Jamaicans. In fact, if you're doing a bachelor's, you are in the 12%, 12 to 15% most educated Jamaicans. If you're doing a master's, it gets smaller, 5 to 10%. If you're doing a PhD, you're 0.2% most brightest Jamaicans. I didn't check associate degree, sorry, but I'm sure you're up there. But what it means is that with great benefits and great blessings come great responsibility. So you are the top most educated Jamaicans. Most of you are young, I'm looking around. And so the potential for a people to transform this nation rests heavily in your hands. The Jamaica of the future, you're going to determine what it's going to become. So what Jamaica do we want? What is the Jamaica that we want? What do we believe we can have? The People's Republic of Congo in Africa is one of the wealthiest countries in the world in terms of its ores. Its diamond mines, its copper mines, its gold mines, the mineral ores underneath the surface. If it was to be extracted and converted into value, it would make that country the wealthiest country in the world. Do you know where it ranks? The people on the surface? The fourth poorest in the world. It breaks your heart, doesn't it? Now, Jamaica, our diamond, our gold, our copper, our huge reservoirs of wealth lie, I would argue, in our tourism assets. Our beaches, our rivers, our waterfalls, our mineral spas, our blue holes, our cultural assets as well. Our reggae music, our Bob Marley's, our Shaggy's, Sean Paul, vibes too, I guess. You know that's a bad word now, but still, as a country, we bat way above our weight class. The impact that we have made on this planet is phenomenal. And the assets that we have that make us an attractive destination is second to none. So, like Congo, sitting on assets, but people are poor. Back to Jamaica, we're not as poor, thank God, but we're sitting on assets. Who is going to be the one to convert the assets? If we go over to Congo right now and we look at all the poor people over there and so on, and we say, boy, come on, you guys don't know what you have underneath, man. Who should we put the pressure on to do that conversion? The people on the streets or the educated ones in universities? You see the point I'm getting at? There's a lot more responsibility on your shoulders. So don't believe you are here to just get a degree, get a good job, make some money, buy a car, buy a house, get a girl or a guy, husband, wife, and then get kids and happy and then die and that's it. I'm charging you to recognize that in the year 2024, you young educated Jamaicans have a responsibility to do more than that. There's a nation that needs to be transformed. Our foreparents fought and died to give us physical liberation. But we are still not free. From an economic standpoint, because freedom in a capitalist society means that you must have the power to make choices, correct? And the power to make choices means money. You try and live in a capitalist society with $0, zero money. By day 3, your light cut off and your water cut off. You can't go anywhere, transportation costs money. You're going to die by a month going past if you're lucky, if you can stay alive. Forget healthcare. So we have to recognize that in a capitalist society, there's a responsibility for us to lift our nation to the levels where they have economic freedom. Right now, there are people who don't have a choice. They have to do what others tell them. In inner cities, extortion, zero dons, abusive husbands. The people can't leave because they don't have the economic freedom. And so we can't rest on our laurels thinking that we're okay. We just need to make it on our own, forget everybody else. There's a responsibility that you have as the educated Jamaicans not to leave the rest of them behind. For each one of you, there's 100 Jamaicans out there that did not get the blessing and resources that you have to be sitting here today. So I charge you to not just live a good life. I want you to live a good life as well. But make sure there's a component of your growth where you are lifting up others, where you are making a difference. And it doesn't have to be financially, you know, because a lot of Jamaica's problems are between our ears. It's a mindset problem. The introduction spoke about me being in business, running my family's business. But I got to an age in my life where I was doing well enough, married, kids, expanding the business, thought I was the bee's knees, you know, things going well and so on. And I recognized then that it wasn't good enough to just continue on that path, live a good life, my family have money, blah, blah, blah. I'm okay. Because Jamaica had issues. Jamaica needed attention, intervention. And so I did what anybody else would do. I ran for Member of Parliament for Western and Westmoreland in the 2011 election against the then Minister of Tourism, Wickham McNeil. Fierce race. Campaign like crazy. And then when the ballots were counted, I came in second. But what was important to me was when I was campaigning, it really dawned on me that I went to the areas that had poor people and went to areas that had wealthy people. And I just recognized it wasn't the only difference was the mindset, the mentality. And so being an extremely positive person, I didn't want to accept it as a loss. I accepted it as a gift. And I said, okay, what is this gift? It means if I want to transform this nation into a first world country, I need to learn how to change mindsets. And so I scanned the globe, checked for all the universities, found a professor who wrote the book on attitude and attitude change, contacted them, signed up, and I did a PhD in social psychology. Came back in March 2017 and took the position as executive director of TEF. So most of today, I know you spoke about the tourism innovation, and I'll speak to some of that as well too, but being in front of you outstanding Jamaicans, I wanted to at least try and shine a little bit of a light awaken, light a flame, hopefully, because each of you are powerful enough that with your drive, enthusiasm, with your energy, you can make a significant difference in the transformation of this nation. Who believes we should not be first world? Who believes that we cannot become first world? Good. Everybody's hand is down. So you believe that we can be, we deserve to be, we have the resources to be. So I'll tell you it's in a story. One day God was surfing the internet and he was reading some of the comments on the headlines. And he started noticing every time I go to Jamaica and read the comments, my goodness, they are harsh, very critical. Everybody cussing. Jamaica gone to the dogs. Jamaica is not a real place. Right? Anything can happen in Jamaica. It's pure drama in Jamaica. So God called St. Peter and said, look like we made a mistake with this one, you know. And God said, all right, tell you what, I'm going to fix it. So God comes to Jamaica, right? And God lifts up all Jamaicans, all 2.9 million of us, into the skies. And God gets rid of Jamaica, right? So just the Caribbean seas left. Puerto Rico, Cuba, and so on. Cayman, just the Caribbean sea where Jamaica was. All the Jamaicans are in the sky. And God says to us, all right, Jamaicans, obviously you didn't like the country and the way it was going. I'm going to do it over. I'm going to build you a brand new country. This time, I'm going to let you tell me what you want, and I'll just build it for you. All the Jamaicans say, well, all right, sound good, sound good. All right. So God said, all right, cool. Do you want a country that's part of a continent? So you are one country and you have other countries on the same continent. You may have borders. You may even be landlocked kind of thing, or do you want like a island all to yourself kind of stuff? The Jamaicans huddle, man, and say, boy, we can't bother with the border problems and disputes. And all right, God, we want an island. God say, all right. So God say, all right, do you want it to be ice cold Antarctica or desert hot Sahara desert? Jamaicans say, please, that's scary. No, please. Tell you what, we want the best. Give us sunshine year round, tropical weather. We want if a seed drop out of our pocket, it go and grow. God say, all right. God said, all right, do you want it to be all mountains or all flat like a pancake? We say, give us a mix, no? Some flat, some. By now, you see where I'm going with this, right? By the time we place our order with beaches, rivers, waterfalls, mountain ranges, mineral spas, and so on, and God says, okay, hard work, I built your new country. I'm going to move you down now. In fact, I'm going to blindfold you, take you down, right? After 3, remove the blindfolds. 1, 2, 3. Ta-da! What are you going to see? We could not have ordered a better country. And let me tell you how good that country is. From a tourism perspective, we win awards, best beaches every year. It's the #1 wedding destination in the world. It's the #1 family destination in the world. And that was just last year's awards. Every other year we win different versions of why we're amazing. Kingston Harbor, 190 countries in the world now. Kingston Harbor is where does it rank in terms of the largest natural harbor? 7. So what happened to the other 190 compared to 7? Milk River Mineral Spa, 4th most radioactive, which is the potency that makes it have the healing properties in the world. Dunn's River, the #1 attraction in the Caribbean. Or ginger is the strongest in the world. We just opened the artisan village in Falmouth, and One of the things we're doing is trying to get more and more tourists to stop there. So we're looking at the current itineraries, Martha Bray and Glistening Waters tour, which is a tour of a luminous lagoon. And you've heard about it? So I said, that's interesting, luminous lagoon, how much of an attraction is that? How significant is that kind of thing? So I started to ask it some questions. So I asked the questions. How many luminous lagoons are there in the world? It says 12. I'm like, whoa, only 12? It's why the specific climatic conditions and geographic location, it's not easy to have that kind of feature. And then I continued and I asked ChatGPT, which luminous lagoon is the brightest in the world? You know what came back? Palmos, Jamaica. We have the richest cocoa in the world. We have the most potent turmeric in the world. You know, our reputation of Blue Mountain coffee, one of the best in the world. Our rums win awards, best awards in the world. What is wrong with us? Why are we so overly blessed as a country? And those are just our natural assets. I mean, let me give you a comparison. Do you know how many mountains Cayman has? Anybody? 0. 0 mountains, meaning 0 rivers, 0 waterfalls. That's a competing destination. Are you crazy? They shouldn't even be in the same arena as us. Let's go to our cultural assets. You guys would have been born after the millennium, correct? Most of you? At the turn of the millennium, when we were going from 1999 to 2000. Time magazine decided to check and award recognition for the best music that the world has created. So they had the song of the millennium, meaning 1,000 years. From the year 1000 to the year 2000. 1,000 years of songs on 190 countries on the planet. You know how many songs that were, that amounted to, that you're gonna filter through and choose the best one? Do you know what song won that award? One Love, Bob Marley, Jamaica. You would think they would say, okay, all right, then when Jamaica gets Song of the Millennium, we're gonna have another award, the Album of the Century. And we already give Jamaica an award, so come to find somebody else. 190 countries. Surely you can pick one from somewhere else. You know what album won Album of the Century? Exodus, actually. Exodus, Bob Marley. Jamaica. Just yesterday, it was announced that the 3rd best soundtrack for a movie, I don't know if you saw it on social media, was The Harder They Come, a film produced in Jamaica. We see, I think when we become first world, and we start beat your chest and say, oh, Jamaica, we're first world now, the other countries going to be like, really, all this time? You had all that going for you? And you're not first world yet? Just now? But there's a reason we're not there yet. And I don't want to make us feel bad that we're not there yet. We are coming through a history that has made it difficult for us to achieve that up until now. And that's why this talk is so important, because I have to let you youngsters know of the opportunity in front of you. How much more time I have? Keep Thanks. So, the greatest asset of any nation, regardless of the oil reservoirs, regardless of the gold mines, the copper mines in Jamaica, regardless of the beaches, rivers, waterfalls. What's the greatest asset of any nation? It's people. It's people. So just like Congo, the people can sit on assets, but if the people aren't developing those assets, aren't aligned to collaborating, cooperating, working together, using their strength in collaboration to having the vision, building a nation, they will all stay poor. They will stay poor if the people are fighting each other, if the people don't trust each other, if the people spend more energies catching each other. Let's take this building. To build this auditorium, this lecture theater, required architects, required designers, required planners, required masons, required carpenters, required marble guys, required roofers, required electricians, required flooring carpet guys, required fabricators to make the railings, required a whole host of people, plumbers and so on, to coordinate, to collaborate, and to build this amazing structure here that is very helpful for the progress of the nation. Agreed? How many persons would it take to destroy this building? One person with some gas and a matches and a lighter could destroy this building. And so building a nation, we have to get our people to recognize that there's no value in being the destroyer, in being the shutter, in being the bad man, in being the done man, in being the warrior. No, I know we have been conditioned to revere those persons in our society rather than the ones who facilitate building, the collaborators, the cooperators, the encouragers, the supporters. In our society today, those are not the ones that are encouraged and recognized. The ones in the media all the time are the warriors. Now, I know why that's the case. It is because we are coming out of a history where that was needed. Look at our national heroes. Sam Sharp, warrior. Paul Bogle, warrior. Nani, warrior. Because then we had an oppressive regime. So of course it meant that the ones who were the heroes were the ones who fought and won and turned over that oppressive regime. But now, we don't have an oppressive regime. We have Jamaicans in parliament. We have Jamaicans in the army. We have Jamaican police. We have Jamaican teachers, Jamaican professors. We have, who are we warring? Now the time for collaboration. Now the time for building. And so the heroes of today that we need are you, the ones that are trained, that are educated, that are skilled, but the ones that also recognize the value of collaboration, the value of working together. Because as a species, we are strongest when we collaborate. We would not even be here if we didn't collaborate. Our foreparents, ancestors would have died, a lion would have eaten them, a saber-tooth tiger or a mammoth or something. But we collaborated when one set is sleeping, the other is awake watching them. To eat, 10 guys catch one big mammoth and it feed everybody. Now we have an example of a group that collaborated and created a successful nation, a wealthy nation. It's called White America. They were a British colony as well. America was a British colony as well, you know that, like Jamaica. The fundamental difference was during colonialism, the majority of the population of the US were Europeans. The slaves were the minority. In fact, they still call Black people minority to this day in the States. So when you have an oppressive regime, and you have the majority of the population being the oppressors, and the oppressed is the minority, then it's easy to do it. You outnumber them. A slave run away from a plantation there, a posse of white people just ride them down, catch them, lynch them, teach them an example. The other minority slaves cower in fear, couldn't do much about it. In Jamaica, here's the difference. There were more slaves than there were Europeans. In fact, the ratio was 6 to 1. 6 blacks to 1 white. Begs the question, how could they, as the minority, inflict that oppressive regime for hundreds of years? And the way they did it was they divided and ruled. So they took out of the 6, 2 or 3, treated them better. They became loyal to them and started betraying their own race, their own people. That's why in this day in Jamaica, we say in Farm of the Dead and so on. Those are the cultures that are brought over. Now, this is not an exercise to try and get us upset or anything. This is an exercise for us to learn, because what the in-group Europeans in America did differently as a people versus us in Jamaica was based on that mix of whites to blacks. So in the US, they were running away from a classist society, you know, in Britain and Spain. But it was based on monarchy. You had the royal family, king and queen on top. They had their own laws. In fact, it's the king and the queen that set the laws. The king could get tired of his wife, cut off her neck, and marry a new wife. And if everybody if I bow down to him, your majesty, your majesty. Then you had duke, duchesses, lords, noblemen, right down to peasants. Different laws for different people at that stage. A peasant could steal an apple and get his head cut off. So when they ran away to the US and the islands, they were running away from all that kind of classist bias system. Do you know what the plaque on the Statue of Liberty says? Anybody? Give me your weak, your poor, your sick, your persecuted, and I will give you liberty. I'm paraphrasing a bit, but all these poor people, Europeans running away, settling in America. Now, when they gained their independence, that's a fundamental difference. They said to hell with that stratified society. They're going to create a land of the free where everyone can pursue happiness. Everyone in their heads is every white one, meaning the population was white, so they're just making a rule for the population. In fact, they looked at blacks as 2/3 human kind of thing. But again, don't get upset about that. I want you to focus on what the in-group did together for themselves. That was the first time they introduced the term president or head of state. Before, it was emperor and king and all kind of terms they used to represent heads of state. That was the first time they used the word president, because they wanted that leader to know that don't get it twisted. You don't have no post for life and your offspring's entitled and that kind of nonsense. You are only presiding in that role for now. So they now create this society that's facilitatory, that's uplifting, that's encouraging, that's cooperative. We call it white privilege today. Where if a white banker and a white couple come in, they're likely to get the mortgage. A white police pull over a white driver. Oh, Bob, have a good day, right? A white judge and a white criminal, the sentence is lighter. You see it all the time. But I'm not, again, we tend to focus on what that in-group has done to the ones we relate to, the Black Americans. what we need to do is see ourselves as the majority of the population here in Jamaica and ask ourselves, are we creating a Jamaican privilege? We're amongst our people, whatever position we're in. Are we saying to our fellow Jamaicans, yes, first, and then we figure out how to? Are we saying, how can I help you up to our fellow brothers? How can I facilitate you? How can I encourage you? I know that I can only rise if you rise. And that's our problem. We are still over here because the structure here was divide and rule, stratifying society again. The Americans did away with the stratification that Britain had. We set it back up. But the fundamental difference here was that our strata was not based on royal blood and relationship to the royal family. It was based on Caucasian features, meaning they interbred with the slaves a lot more and started having brown kids and so on. And the whole of Jamaica's structure was set up based on that. My parents' time, my mother, Indian lady, my complexion, when she got her first job at Barclays Bank in Savlamar, which is now NCB, the only person darker than her was the cook in the kitchen. Some of you here will remember that era when you couldn't get a job in your Jamaica unless you had a certain look. You couldn't be Miss Jamaica, for crying out loud, if you didn't have a certain look. Am I seeing anybody nodding? So how do you maintain that stratified society? You then have to have what you call artificial biases. You have to make it where the system makes it tough for the masses to rise. And then based on your position, you get over the system. In America, they make a system where the masses rise. You don't need to fight nobody. Everything is an opportunity. So your head is down, shoulder to the wheel, because it's a land where on your own industry you can rise. In Jamaica, no, they set up the system to make it difficult. To this day, you try and play by the rules in Jamaica. What's the term? If you play by the rules in Jamaica, you get shafted. I know I heard somebody whisper it. So you try and join every line, wait every turn, fill out every form, call the switchboard. Wait when they say they'll get back to you and see if you get anything done in Jamaica. Try and make a forward step. Just, a kid come out of university, out of high school, 0 subject, and say, boy, I still going to fight it and try and make it in Jamaica. I'm going to get a license, a driver's license. You try to do it the proper way, they kill you. It take 6 months before you get it. Maybe a year. Try to get a building permit and play by the rules. And so the system is designed to make it difficult for the regular person. And then based on your privilege, you go around. At best, if you're principled, decent, you say, I'm just going to use my network. And say, who runs thing? Who is the manager of the tax office? Oh, it's Johnny. Hey, John, Dr. Wallace here. I have some document. I'm sending out my beer, blah, blah, blah. I don't have to go through that system design. As Barry say, you have to put up resistance. But why do we have it? It was designed that way to protect the stratification of society. So in those developed countries, you have the system set up facilitatory. So they are trying to help you up. Here, they make it difficult and you have to break through it, go around it to make that progress. Now, here's the thing coming out of social psychology, which all of you know, is that every human is after the same things. You know the Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Food, clothing, shelter, healthcare. You want to stay alive. Survival needs. After those are satisfied, then you want some other needs. You want respect, you want self-esteem, you want companionship and those kind of things, right up to self-actualization. Every human wants it. And if you don't create a society where when you play by the rules, you achieve those objectives, you're going to get people breaking the rules. Nobody's going to make a choice to say, okay, I'm not going to go after the things I need in this life. We will always be moving in that direction. So the best thing we can do as a country is align where when you play by the rules, you achieve those objectives. And who is going to change that? We're conditioned from the stratified period to set up systems to make it difficult. Let's take JPs, Justices of the Peace. I will go to an office with a picture, passport size picture of myself, my face, and I am there with my face and myself. And I'll show it to them and say, here's my passport picture. And they will tell me, no, they can't take it. I have to go back and get a JP to sign it to say it's me. When I was studying in the UK, you go into supermarkets and you have self-checkout. You pack your stuff off the shelf, put it in a basket. You go to a kiosk, no human is there. And you swipe the thing, scan them, ping, 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 ping. And you tell you how much you swipe a check and you walk out to the store. In Jamaica, you pay your cash or you swipe a card at the cashier because she's the one checking it off. And then you pack up your stuff and think you can leave. Nah. A security catch you. I say, where you going, boss? Where am I going? You are guilty here until proven innocent, whereas there, you're innocent until proven guilty. Security, ask him for a bill, find it, show him, and rummage through my stuff. So I'm guilty, I must be proving that I am not a thief. And then say, okay, you can now go. So the opportunity that I want to get to know, I'm probably speaking a bit more than my time, but is that finally there is a way to right these wrongs, a way to create a society where we believe the average Jamaican can make it up without any artificial barriers. And that's called technology. So, and it's not just fixing the system so that every Jamaican is now engaged and playing their role in this collaborative Jamaica to make it a first world nation. It is where we happen to be in an industry and have resources that can make us wealthy. And it's called tourism, because travel and tourism globally is one of the fastest growing industries on the planet. In fact, we are having overgrowth problems now in travel and tourism. We don't have enough aircrafts to fly the amount of people that need to fly. That's a rate of growth of people who are traveling around the world. So you have other industries, right? Oil, gas, gold, diamond, commodities, IT, all these other industries. But then you have travel and tourism, which is growing faster. And then you have a country that is a superstar when it comes on to people wanting to come to Jamaica. So it's almost like seeing an abundance of water coming our way, already here, but splashing, but it's another tsunami coming of opportunity and abundance. And so we cannot afford any Jamaican to be thirsty. We have to see it coming. We have to see the potential. We have to see the opportunity, and we have to grab it. Because the way tourism evolved over the last few decades was in a way that turned off a lot of Jamaicans. I bet you if I do a poll of how many of you plan to go into tourism, you're studying courses to go into tourism, it will probably not be a lot. yet it's the number one industry. Let's take Ghana, just found huge reservoirs of oil. You would say to yourself, boy, I want my Caribbean brothers and sisters to really make sure that huge gift of reservoirs of oil translates into a good quality of life for the Guyanese people, correct? So you would say to all the bright kids, study chemical engineering, go into distillery, get the skill sets so that you have the top jobs of it. In Jamaica, go to the top school, go to Campion and Immaculate and all them schools and ask the kids, how many of you are going into Jamaica's number one industry? You're lucky if you count one or two. There's a misalignment, primarily because the perception was that it's an enclave industry on the North Coast. A couple of wealthy Jamaicans and a couple of wealthy foreigners own the tourism plants and so on. But the good news is that that is now changing because of technology. The Airbnbs, the power of social media, giving you an opportunity to showcase the gems of Jamaica and the gems of what you live amongst to the world. 10 years ago, the window to the world from Jamaica was JTB. It was sandals. They could afford expensive ads in CNN and travel magazines and so on. Today, we have 2.9 million windows to the world. Every single one of you have an income generator, a marketing tool, a publisher in your hands, because you can take content, you can take pictures, you can make videos, you can write blogs, you can tell stories. And you have access to our market there. So, I mean, let's take Airbnb. Who knows the story of Airbnb? 3 guys finish university, but they still have their apartment, the lease on their apartment in California. They have a show, a conference coming up, and they wanted to stay. They had a choice: do I stay, keep the lease to stay for the conference, or do I give up the lease, save that money, get to rent a hotel for the conference? So they started calling around hotels. Everybody book out. And they said to them, if everybody book out, that means there must be other people looking for a space to stay. So I'm going to keep the lease, and I'm going to build a website. I'm going to buy an airbed. I'm going to put in the living room, build a website, and advertise airbed and breakfast. Right? And they made like about $36 from that. And they said, well, I have an idea here. I'm going to check on all cities that are having conferences, that the hotels are booked out, try and make deals with landlords, and then have this airbed and breakfast for that. They started noticing that people were booking it even without a conference. When they went to the first hotel conference and talked about their plan, people laughed them to shame. They said it would never work. The first time a guest gets harassed by a host, it's going to be the end of your business. Today, Airbnb is the largest provider of accommodations in the world. The 3 guys their net worth is like $4.7 billion US each. Innovation in tourism. So what I'm saying here is that we are sitting on the riches here in Jamaica, the wealth here in Jamaica, the potential here in Jamaica. And it's not just ordinary potential, it's outstanding potential. We have a people that have not converted that potential because we have a mental conditioning of seeing an enemy first in our brother, rather than seeing the partner in our brother, because of the divide and rule system. We have to shake that and wake up to a new Jamaica where we collaborate first, where we see each other as a brother first, not as an enemy. So forget the differences that they have created on us and conditioned us to have over the years. PNP, JLP, Uptown, Downtown, Gully Gaza, KCJC. They give us all these nonsensical reasons to be enemies of each other, rather than to recognize that we sit on paradise. And tourism is the fastest growing industry, and it's for us to just convert it. technology now is allowing, it's not an enclave industry anymore. It can go right into your experience wherever you are. Last year alone, 31% of our arrivals stayed in non-hotel accommodation. 31%. The year before was 29%. So almost a third of all our arrivals are staying in Airbnbs, villas, and so on. So I hope I have shared some transformative opportunities for us, not just as individuals, but for us to transform as a nation. Many of you would have family members in first world countries. And if you look at those first world countries, the only difference is that they are collaborating, they're facilitating, they've built out infrastructure, which requires collaboration and facilitation. And if we continue to fight each other, spend our energies, bright guy in the country, get top grades, another bright guy in the country, get a second top grades, and you think if the two of them collaborate, boy, they can help to build up their community. But no, they're not collaborating. One is PNP, one is GLP, so them spend their energies tearing each other down. So it nullifies that power, nullifies that energy, nullifies that opportunity. And so the majority of the population being strong, from a strong race, outstanding individuals, end up being weakened because the energy and the power is turned inwards, fighting each other. I'll close with a saying that the best tool, the greatest tool in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. Greatest tool in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. Let us not be brainwashed anymore. Let us recognize that Jamaica's future is ours to create. Let us recognize that we have copious opportunities. Tourism is a massive one, where if we cooperate just enough to make us a peaceful destination, just enough to get rid of crime, I believe we won't have hands to count money. Barack Obama had made a speech when he was running for president the first time. He said but he wasn't president yet, he was just running. He said, when I become president, to my allies, I look forward to collaborating with you for global advancements. And he said, to my enemies, if you unclench your fists, I will shake your hands. Powerful statement. In fact, he won the Nobel Peace Prize right after he became president for that type of peaceful, cooperative rhetoric. So what I'll say to you in Jamaica is that if we unclench the fists of crime in Jamaica, we can put tourism dollars in everybody's hands. And that's the opportunity we have in front of us. I probably spoke way too long, but thank you. Thank you for listening, and look forward to a first world Jamaica.
Thank you so much, Dr. Wallace. And, you know, I feel comforted this morning because when I was in high school, a teacher came into the classroom one morning and said, I'm afraid of growing old because you're all not ready to take care of me. But Dr. Wallace, with the charge you have given our young people this morning, I'm not afraid of getting old anymore. Thank you. I now invite Professor Colin Giles, President of UCC, to make a presentation to Dr. Wallace to show our appreciation for the keynote presentation just received. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will now move right into our panel discussion this morning, which will be on healthcare and tourism. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I will moderate this session and I will now invite our panelists, Dr. Patricia Smith, Dr. Carey Wallace, Professor John Fulton, and join us online is Dr. Philip and Yan Wu from the University of Warwick. And I will now introduce our panelists. I think Dr. Wallace needs no introduction. So I will begin with Dr. Patricia Smith. Dr. Patricia Smith is an entrepreneur and author who overcame significant personal challenges, including homelessness, to become a successful business owner. Her transformative experience with a compassionate nurse during her teens inspired her career in caring for the vulnerable. Dr. Smith's resilience and personal motivation have driven her to make a significant impact through her work and advocacy. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Patricia Smith to our panel. Oh, yes. Good morning, Dr. Anwanyu. Welcome. Join us online is Dr. Philip Anwanyu. He is a reader in public health at Warwick Medical School, University of Warwick. He's a public health academic with research and teaching interest in infectious diseases, epidemiology, and social epidemiology, as well as global health and digital health. His research involves using population-level healthcare and routinely collected big data. He has experience leading and delivering research projects evaluating the mechanism of impact, the impact of social and health policies, interventions on populations, and inequalities therein. He has previously held academic posts at Cardiff University, Imperial College London, University of Sunderland, and the University of Glasgow. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Anwanyu.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, everyone.
And our own professor, I say our own because he now belongs to us, Professor John Fulton, our Director of Research. Previously, the Academic Director of Postgraduate Research and Programs at the University of Sunderland. And he was also the leader for a professional doctorate and chair of the University Ethics Group. He is a professor of social inclusion, which is reflected in his interest in social inequalities and their reproduction in education and health. And he's also involved in a number of social epidemiology studies in sub-Saharan Africa. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Professor Fulton. Okay, our session will commence this morning with Dr. Anwanyu. He will give us a 10-minute presentation speaking about healthcare and tourism. And then I'll ask our panelists, begin with Dr. Smith, to give a short presentation, followed by Dr. Wallace, and then Professor Fulton. And then we'll take questions from the audience. Thank you.
Can you let me know if you're able to see my presentation now, my slides?
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. And many thanks, Professor Fulton, for inviting me to give this talk and be part of the panel. So I'll be providing an introduction to the area of medical tourism. You know that the practice of traveling to seek medical care is not new. People have been moving around searching for care for ages. And there's that long history of travel, whether it is to be nearer to family and friends who can provide support during time of care and recovery, or motivated by seeking more sophisticated and specialized care. So these are some of the factors that have motivated traveling for medical care. Medical tourism, as we know it today, refers primarily to a new phenomenon of travelers seeking care abroad, along with the organizations that support or offer incentives for such travel, so the wider medical tourism industry. There are a range of treatments that people travel for medical purposes, ranging from elective procedures like cosmetic surgery to essential treatments such as heart surgery, orthopedic care, or even cancer treatment. And for those who are able to afford it, there are also, becoming more popular executive checkups that people take up for routinely checkups abroad. And travel could be from a more developed to a less developed country. And in the literature around medical tourism, this is referred to as reverse globalization. But we also see it in the other direction, which is people from less developed countries going to more developed countries for medical treatment. The direction of travel for whether you're going from more developed to less developed or less developed to more developed, we seem to have differences in demography of patients who take up these offers, with people from less developed going to more developed being usually people who are relatively more well off in less developed countries. Countries like India, Thailand, Mexico, and countries in the Caribbean, Turkey, these are examples of popular medical tourism destinations. We know that there are some of these countries like India have set up special categories of visas, non-migrant medical visas, that makes it easier for visitors to come in seeking health care. So there are some structures that at national, government level have been set in place to make way for medical tourism to flourish in these top destinations. Distal locations are the initial assumptions and also still seen in most popular media coverage of medical tourism. However, medical tourism has gone beyond the distant location. And in many cases, medical tourism destinations are what is considered as backyards close to source countries. We've seen that, for example, with people from the United States going to neighboring countries like Canada, whether it's for seeking healthcare or even for purchase of medical products like medications. In the UK, if you're traveling in a UK airport like Heathrow and you see travelers with, whose scalp look like on this photo on my left, if you ask people to guess where they've traveled from, a lot of people are more likely to correctly guess that they've been to Turkey. So Turkey is one of the common destinations for medical tourism by Brits. And a lot of the destinations, the medical tourism to these destinations tend to be around cosmetic. Jamaica is one of the countries in the Caribbean whose governments and hospitals have identified medical tourism as a strategic priority for economic development. I quite enjoyed listening to Dr. Wallace's talk earlier and creating that context of tourism in Jamaica. Medical tourism is a shoot of this. It is a natural extension of the country's existing tourism products. And there are different factors that are driving the flourishing industry of medical tourism in Jamaica. A combination of factors like ease of affordable healthcare services, the high quality medical training programs, and the strategic focus on expanding its tourism industry, as well as the, the private sector in Jamaica. So Jamaica's medical tourism efforts focus on its private healthcare sector, offering international patients cost-effective procedures in a tropical setting, supported by an accessible provider network and the allure of Jamaica's recreational tourism infrastructure. So that's kind of a good incentive for people who are choosing this destination for medical tourism. So cost effectiveness, we know, is one of the factors that drive the movement for medical treatment, especially compared to private sectors in high income countries. People moving from high income countries to lower income countries or middle income countries for healthcare are usually maybe attracted due to the affordability. The internet plays a major role also in driving medical tourism. And as we've seen with, the globalization of communication, it provides, it makes it easy for information and communication and for markets, in medical tourism markets, to be able to, target people outside their local area. There's also the issue of access to an extensive range of specialized treatments beyond, in some cases, beyond the offers in your local area, being one of the drivers of the current trends in medical tourism globally. And also, it also enables that bypassing or reducing waiting time, and in some cases can provide higher quality care. Medical tourism has significant economic benefits for destination countries, and we've had overall influence economically of tourism from Dr. Wallace's talk. Economic implications are beyond revenue from direct medical treatment. People, when they come, also have holidays at the back of these treatments, bringing in revenue to the host or destination country. But there are some ethical questions about inequalities in healthcare access and quality control across borders when it comes to medical tourism. So this is an example of one of the contemporary issues with medical tourism. There's also issue of accreditation and quality of care, the aftercare that people receive. And in some cases, like in the UK, we are seeing some transfer of burden to the, the NHS, the local hospitals here, where people who have had procedures in other countries come back with complications that need aftercare, and so in some cases, corrective surgery. There are also legal recourse and adverse outcomes, or even differences in medical standards, cultural and language barriers. So these are issues that this sector would have to deal with. And any advancements in this sector or extension of the medical tourism in Jamaica needs to give substantial contribution on how to address these contemporary issues in medical tourism. And thanks for listening. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Anwanu. We will now have Dr. Smith, if she will be ready.
Thank you, Dr. Sutherland, for inviting me to this event. I recognize my colleague panelist, Dr. Wallace, and sorry, I don't recall, Professor Fulton. From my research, a research that I looked at, a few researches, but two in particular from Caper and Alston. The research reveals that medical tourism has grown from approximately $15 billion US dollars in 2017 to a projection of $28 billion by the end of 2024. Now that's big. So I'm really glad that Jamaica is looking at medical tourism as an income generating stream where people don't just come for fun, tourists don't just come for fun, they can also access our island for care. In fact, I bought a place down in Negril. I was just telling Dr. Wallace that we know of each other, but we have never met. My place is right next to his place down in Negril. And the reason I bought that place was to explore medical tourism, in particular health and wellness, teaching people how to keep their weight down, people to reduce habits like smoking or overeating so they can keep their weight looking like me at 68 years old. So there are reasons that people will explore medical tourism in addition to just trying to stay healthy, which is what I'm into. So when I think of medical tourism, there are three things that jumps out at me. Standards, quality, and safety. Standards, we want to ensure that when people come to our island, they can receive the same standard of care that they would normally receive in other places like first world countries. I know one of the insurance companies, Blue Cross Blue Shield, has started to look at standards in other countries, standards as it relates to Joint Commission accreditation, which really examine standards over and above that which is set by the state and the facility where the patient will receive care. Now, quality denotes using current and best research practices to provide the care so that we can get desired outcome. Safety looks at avoiding medical errors, omissions, and harm to patients that are receiving care. Now, quality and safety are inseparable. You have to have both. Quality cannot exist without safety. And so what our country need to do is ensure or shore up these three things: our standards, our quality, and safety, to ensure that it's comparable to what people would receive in first world countries. Now, we also need to look at things like our insurance, people insurance, whether or not we will accept those insurances here in Jamaica. I know Blue Cross Blue Shield will do some coverage outside of, United States. And so our job here is to ensure that we have one of the best products to offer to our tourists, to ensure that they don't just come for fun, they come for care and treatment. And that's just my little piece for now.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. We'll now have Dr. Wallace.
Okay, great. Thank you. And The medical tourism responsibility, the portfolio in government, happens to rest in JAMPRO, which is under the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. In the Ministry of Tourism, the type of, or the relation to medical tourism that we are in charge of is what we call health and wellness tourism. So it's not procedures as such, it is more optional choices that provide a service where they feel better, they eat better, the experience that they have while they're here makes them leave feeling younger, feeling healthier, feeling more alive, feeling that they had a fantastic life experience. Because if you think of tourism as an industry or as a service, what is it that we provide? We provide an opportunity for our consumer or customer to save up their money, book a trip, get on a plane or a ship, and come all the way here, and we provide them with the opportunity to just experience what we have every day. They get a chance to experience it for a week or two and pay us for that. It's a great industry to be in. Other industries, you have to buy raw material, you have to smelt and fabricate and package and transport and ship and export, and not read wholesale then retail before you get $1 coming back to you. Here, it's an industry where they bring the money here. When a cruise ship pulls into a Falmouth port, it's instant convertibility. The wealth in the pockets or on the credit cards of the passengers come off and start pouring into the hands of the Jamaican suppliers that are supplying. So when it comes down to innovating with all the variety of experiences that our visitors want, we have to go way beyond sun, sea, and sand. Yes, that is paramount. The bulk of the visitors, that's one of the reasons they choose Jamaica. But we have so much more to offer. Our biodiversity is one of the best in the world as well, in terms of the variety of indigenous medicinal plants. Talk to Dr. Henry Lowe and he'll tell you about it, that we have in Jamaica. And so what it opens up is all these entrepreneurial opportunities for our Jamaicans to take their grandmother's formulas. And one of the things that we do in Tourism Enhancement Fund through our linkages network is we have a spa workshop where we bring those Jamaicans who have those products that they've kind of just organically developed, and we take them in partnership with the Bureau of Standards, with the Scientific Research Council, and we train them up and take the products from where they are, do the testing, do the measurements of the ingredients, do the formulas, the labeling, all those things, to take them to the accredited level where they can take the products to commercialize levels, not just for the tourism sector, but to export as well. So we also have the Health and Wellness Tourism Conference once a year to provide an opportunity for the ecosystem of the health and wellness industry here in Jamaica to have that medium to share best practices, to advance that subsector of tourism or the subsector of Jamaica in general, becoming a destination where persons can come not just for sun, sea, and sand, but have an outstanding health and wellness experience, whether it's yoga, whether it's meditation, whether it's going to the mineral spas, where these topical applications. I mean, one of the things I see on social media now is when they go rafting, the lads are rubbing them down with limestone, I believe it is, has some healing properties and so on. But long story short is tourism is much broader than the type of tourism that Jamaica is seeing today. And our big push is to get it to be more all-included. Not all-inclusive, but all of Jamaica included in the tourism space. So it's opening up more and more opportunities, and especially in the health and wellness subsector of tourism, because that is one of the fastest growing areas post-COVID, is the health and wellness traveler. So thankfully, we are not just seeing this opportunity and saying, okay, let us adjust to try and get it, but we have depth. We have been operating as a people with those health and wellness practices. Take the Rastas, for instance. Them had ital food. You know what ital food is called today? Vegan. We had it all along. Right? And the natural methods of farming. You know how many farmers are in Jamaica? 300,000 farmers, meaning a lot of small farmers, meaning this farm to table. That's now a modern thing, farm to table. Which every Jamaican has grown up eating farm to table, unless you're in the heart of Kingston, and even then, your backyard going to have 2 callaloo or something in it. But every Jamaican is accustomed to that. Seriously, natural, naturopathic solutions. You know, castor oil. By the way, you know which country has the best castor oil in the world? You guys tired of me yet? Jamaica's black castor oil is the best castor oil in the world, man. No, there's no time to skylark anymore, guys. We have too much opportunity ahead of us, and the health and wellness arena as well. Now, with the medical tourism, from the meetings I've been in, one of the areas that we really need to get over that hurdle is to get where the health insurance that our market has there in their countries can be applicable to the services here. And that requires, you know, multilateral negotiations, that requires bilateral negotiations and so on with the countries where they're coming from. And I know Minister Bartlett is grasped with that that need for us to negotiate more and more, because one of the areas that have the potential for growth in Jamaica as well as the baby boomers. You guys know what baby boomers mean? No? So baby boomers is what the phenomenon where after the Second World War, when all the men were out fighting the wars and the women were at home, when they came back from the war, having not been with their wives and spouses for months and months, of course, you started having a lot of babies 9 months after that, if you get my drift. So 9 months after the war was ended, boom, every hospital, maternity ward, full up with just kids like crazy. And on the global pattern, you saw a big bump in births compared to the rest of the population. Now, that bump is called a baby boomers. So as they are 1 year old, 2 years old, is nappies and diapers and baby bottles sold out. If you're in that business, my goodness, you big orders like crazy. As they got a little older, needed tricycles, the tricycle business boom, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, they're now approaching their 70s, 80s. They're getting where you need assisted living services. That's what's in high demand. That's why Florida is growing like there's no tomorrow and so on. And Jamaica, as the 3rd largest English-speaking country in the Americas. How many of you knew that? In the Americas, largest English-speaking country, the USA. 2nd largest is Canada. 3rd largest, Distant third, yes, but the third largest is Jamaica. You know how many opportunities that open up for us? 70% of the world's trade is in English. English is the de facto language of the planet. The UN communicates in English. So to make us be that island destination for assisted living communities also requires that the medical insurance that they would have from wherever they are from would be able to apply here to pay for the bills, pay for the nurses, pay for the doctors, and so on. So that's a big investment that we're making in trying to get over that hurdle, so that it really will open up the door to multiple opportunities in the medical and health and wellness tourism. I'll stop there. Thank you.
Right, thank you. I'll be very brief, but I just want to focus on two aspects of medical tourism. The first is cosmetic surgery. Now, a few years ago, I was involved in a study to do with medical tourism. And sorry, not medical tourism, cosmetic surgery, which is not the same as plastic surgery. These are people who want enhancement of their features rather than something that happened due to a birth defect or an accident. And we carried out a survey of 347 people at random. And to my surprise, 20% of these people had some form of cosmetic surgery, which I found quite high. And what was quite interesting was the people who wanted more surgery were people, a significant amount of people who previously had surgery wanted more surgery. And these people were quite sophisticated in their choice and made very sophisticated decisions about where they would have the surgery. I'll wait till the microphone's right. Is that it? So these people made very sophisticated choices of where they would have their surgery. And one of the things that they chose was cost, obviously cost. How beneficial was cost to the surgery? Is that better? Right. So one of the things was how beneficial was the choice. How beneficial was the cost to the surgery? And that was very, very important to them. As well as that was the availability of the surgery. People wanted it when it suited them. They wanted it in a particular season when it suited, and they wanted it in a climate where rehabilitation would be beneficial. So therefore, a lot of people choose medical tourism, choose to go abroad to have this surgery. And it is a huge, huge market. Now, the downside of that is that people often went and had the surgery very quickly after arriving, which didn't give them time for any psychological assessment. As was highlighted in the previous talks, that often people didn't have the aftercare follow-up because they went home very, very quickly. So that was the downside, but it is a huge market, cosmetic surgery and medical tourism, and it's worth highlighting. Now, the next area I want to highlight is something that's not really been researched, but two incidents that happened to me sort of early in the year. One was we went on holiday after Christmas, and I took ill on a holiday. And there was a point where I needed a doctor, and the doctor came within an hour, prescribed medication. I got the medication within 2 hours. So within 2 hours, I was on treatment and got better fairly quickly. Now, if this had happened in the UK and I needed medical intervention, the first thing I would need an appointment with a doctor, which would take weeks. So forget that. I could go to a drop-in center, wait for 2 hours, and then get a prescription, and then have to get it collected, etc., etc., etc. So it could be days before treatment was implemented. So for tourists, in a way, if you take ill on holiday, which nobody wants, but it's a much better experience than if you go home. The other incident was a relative of mine. Her husband had been very, very ill, and after he recovered, her family, as a present, bought them a cruise. And she was terrified to go on the cruise because she thought, well, what happens if something goes wrong? You know, if he takes ill again, or there's a delay in his recovery. And she went to the doctor to say, do you really think we should go on this cruise? And our doctor said, don't be so stupid. Of course you go on this cruise. You'd be much better off than you would be at home. They've doctors and nurses on tap. They've even got an intensive care on some of the bigger ships. So please go on the cruise. And it made me think that what a good way to rehabilitate, go on a cruise rather than stay at home. And again, that's something that's probably happening, but it's something that is under research, under documented. And anecdotally, and I've no evidence for this, it's an anecdotal thing that people say, and there's probably truth behind it, that rather go into residential care, as we call it in the US, assisted living, a lot of people go on cruises because it's much cheaper to continually go on a cruise than it would be to pay for some form of residential care. So these are some aspects of medical tourism I wanted to highlight.
Just like to say thank you to all our panelists for their presentations. And we are now open for questions. Those of you in the audience, there's a microphone on the steps. So if you'd like to ask a question, please approach the microphone. For our audience online, please write your questions in the Q&A forum and we will feed them for you. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a general question, but I think the feedback would be more rounded if Dr. Wallace were to take it. And so I'm posing it to you, Dr. Wallace. One of the many things that Jamaica is known for, of course, is our high-grade cannabis. Can you share if the CLA has begun any discussions with the tourism arm, of course, either through TEF or the Ministry of Tourism, to allow licensing so that we can offer cannabis, not as a recreational, but for more end-of-life patients? You know, they're terminally ill, they have a low expectancy to recover, but just piggybacking on that assisted living, you know, that at the end of days, where we are going to provide that very same high-grade cannabis for them towards their treatment. Some of them have neuropsychological disorders where it helps. I know for sure that we have cannabis producing companies here. And one of the downsides is we are actually exporting to the European market. One of the downsides is we're limited with GMP factories, and I totally understand that. But is CLA working with the tourism industry so that we can now provide that form of service for those type of patients? Thank you.
All right, thanks. So I'll give you the information I have and apologize that it may not be information from the top. Just from where I sit in the ministry, my understanding is that the extent of the cannabis facilitation is where it is to be used for medicinal purposes. And so if you would have noticed over the last several years, you've seen a proliferation of cannabis cafes and outlets right across the tourism space. And in order to have access, you have to fill out a form or something demonstrating a medical need as a little bit of a control. I know there is a balance that Brand Jamaica wants to have, meaning they want to still appeal to families, and as well as they want persons to feel free when they're here if they want to indulge in cannabis. And so that was almost like the the balance, there's one to say just free the weed, and this open kind of thing, but that would have done some damage to the brand in terms of making it not too left of center, still maintain a wholesome, appealing to families and so on. So I know I've heard the complaints of the CLA being it's an onerous and process to, and so it's almost eliminated the small man who have kind of made our high grade, put that on the map and made us popular for that. So that's quite unfortunate. It's not in my portfolio responsibilities. I can't give you enough of what their strategy is to try and solve those problems. But what I've just shared, just for us to appreciate that you still want the brand to be fairly wholesome and have those areas that you can indulge in, the fun and so on, and not to go too radical where you're perceived as a narcotic country, if you know what I mean. That's a risk that we're trying to just avoid. Still, we benefited tremendously from as a tourism industry from Bob smoking, and it just people come here and are surprised that it's illegal, to be honest, because the average visitor comes and expects that it's what, this is Jamaica, what are you talking about, So we have been able to kind of benefit without branding as that's our main attraction that we're holding up. Still, I look forward to the day where it's and that's me personally, in case we're being recorded. Me personally, as a Jamaican, look forward to the day where that can be more free and open up more entrepreneurship opportunities and more reasons for people to choose Jamaica. You see, I look at tourism like that, where the diversity that we have as a country. The Cayman, Turks and Caicos, they have sun, sea, sand, and then they run out of gas. They stop there. We have sun, sea, sand, mineral spas, health and wellness, weed, rums, coffee. We have reggae music. We're like Pimp My Island. We're so well endowed as a country, and the opportunity we have is to convert each of those strains, each of those channels into income opportunity for Jamaicans, because it adds value when that service is provided by Jamaicans. You go somewhere and you're to another country to immerse yourself in that culture, and when you go, there are Filipinos serving you or Indians serving you. It's not the same as when a real Jamaican is the one serving you, because you're now immersing yourself in the experience of the country and its people. And so I look forward to when we can expand that more and open it more so that more Jamaicans. Speaking of Jamaicans, when we do our exit surveys at the airports and we ask our visitors, what is the number one thing you liked about the country? Remember, we have mountains and rivers and waterfalls and turquoise waters and so on. The answer is the people. So we have 2.9 million gems that are attracting visitors to Jamaica. One last thing, the country with the highest repeat rate in the Caribbean, Jamaica. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and good morning to the panelists. I'm saying good morning, everyone, and good morning to the panelists. Initially, when I heard of medical tourism, I was about to ask a question about the implication for the development of the local medical sector. But then I think, Dr. Wallace, you made it clear that, the emphasis, at least for now, is on the health and wellness tourism.
Well, in the Ministry of Tourism,
Okay.
It's not that the government is not focused on
Okay.
developing the medical industry. I'm just saying in the Ministry of Tourism as a
Tourism.
portfolio responsibility, health and wellness falls in our portfolio. Medical falls in Ministry of Health, except medical tourism,
Mhm.
oddly so, falls into JAMPRO, into Ministry of Industry, developing that model. That's just how I inherited it, and so that's why I could speak more confidently on health and wellness tourism. But it's not that it's not happening in terms of developing medical tourism.
Okay, well, thank you for the clarification. Well, my question would be this then, because I'm very heartened to hear about the health and wellness tourism. And my question would be this: to what extent is it being or will be promoted in such a way that, you know, our local populace can be included, not just from the point of view of providing services, but being a consumer of the service as well? Because we too, you know, would like to be a part of it. So it's not just being sold to external persons who come here and, you know, participate in this great health and wellness product. We also would like to be, while we are providing services, we would like to be a part of it as well.
Thank you. Yes. So we've created a Health and Wellness JA, which is an app for our health and wellness offering. So all the spas across Jamaica, all the health providers across Jamaica are on that app. So Health and Wellness JA, to give that promotion. But one of the things I want to say, especially to the young people as well, is that technology has created a flattening of the channels to the market. And what I mean by that is, when I was growing up in tourism, you had a lot of middle people. You had to talk to tour operator, you had to talk to travel agents, you have to get contracts signed with tour operators, a whole lot of middle people before you got one visitor coming to your establishment. All those are flattened now. Yeah, you still have some people who still go through those channels, but online booking is what is dominant way people book. How they book, they try and find you. There's a search, you know, Airbnbs and so on. There, you're increasing your ranking based on the quality of experience that your previous visitor got. It's called a peer review system. So you can now be in the middle of nowhere, stush in the bush. Wouldn't survive 10 years ago. Today, a great product, great experience in the middle of nowhere in Jamaica, and they're booked out. I doubt if you can get a reservation for the rest of the year. Doing extremely well. Pelican Bar, doing extremely well. So one of the challenges I have is that so many Jamaicans have been conditioned to expect barriers. It's like being hungry and there's one farm in town, but the farm is fenced up, and then you have a gate, and everybody had you so accustomed to being at the gate, talking to the gate man, begging to get in, or bribing to get in, or fighting to get in. And then technology now has just collapsed the fence, but the gate still stand up. And I still grapple with so many Jamaicans still at the gate cussing and quarreling and saying they want to get into the farm, and I'm like, hey, they cannot pick up their phone and promote it and pick up their phone and find the channels. You can snipe a target now. You're not just shotgun shooting out an ad, hoping for people to see it. You can know who are health and wellness enthusiasts, who are who are thinking of traveling. The opportunities we have, especially with artificial intelligence, should make a country like Jamaica rich in opportunity and resources to convert that into floods and floods of tourists coming for more specific and experiential services and experiences, which will then accrue to more and more Jamaicans becoming wealthy from tourism. I'll say one more fact. Getting to first world means we earn 40,000 US dollars per annum per capita. 40,000 US dollar per annum. So 40,000 for the year. That's like the threshold. If you're above 40, you are considered a developed country. If you're below 40, you're developing, and then poor above below. Jamaica is at 7,800, I believe. But 40,000 works out to be about $109 per day, you know, divided by 365. I don't know if any of you have a calculator. Which in the tourism space, somebody could get tips alone That add up to 109 per day. So the entrepreneurship opportunities, and I spoke about the instant convertibility, they are coming here to give you the money. All you have to do is build it up and build your channel and your handle and promote it well enough. I know somebody who likes a party. And so him decided I'm going to create a service where he takes people out, picks up people, take them out to all the parties each night of the week, like wedding Wednesdays, and because him love it, him start charge $25. Start get some booking, him car can't hold him again. It's the booking growing so much. Him buy a bus. Doing so well, him bought 2 buses. That guy now has passed that 40,000 threshold earnings per year. 40,000 times 156 million Jamaican for the year. So more of us need to see that as the target. When we're earning that on average as a country, our taxes will make the government be able to fix every hospital and every school, have gyms in school, have studios in schools, have every police have a police car. The quality of life that your family abroad lives, all that can be created here if we build out on the low-hanging fruits right in front of us, which a lot of it is tourism related. Thanks. I feel like I'm hugging the show here. Yeah.
Dr. Wallace, I see Dr. Anwanyu, your hand is up. Would you like to make a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to first the person who
Wait.
asked it.
Yes, please go
Yeah,
ahead.
the person who asked the question, I thought that was really interesting question, and thank you, Dr. Wallace, for the detailed response you've provided to it. And I know I'm here more to answer questions than ask questions, so this is more of me asking follow-up question than answering any questions, and I do apologize for that. I think my reception is. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
One of the potential, one of the key issues with medical tourism is that potential to drive inequalities in terms of access to healthcare for local people. And my question is just wanted to ask Dr. Wallace, one of the solutions that is being provided for this is towards reinvestment of revenues from medical tourism into local healthcare systems. I just wanted to know if this is an initiative that exists in Jamaica.
Well, what I know is that we're moving away from a typical third world government position into a developed one, meaning the reason the Tourism Enhancement Fund was formed in the first place was because the government at the time didn't have the funds to finance the tourism master plan. The tourism stakeholders in 2004 developed a tourism master plan, how we can develop the industry and grow the industry. The potential was great, how we do it. Created this document, went to the government and said, it's going to require financing. We're going to have to build out infrastructure, build out logistics systems, build out a bunch of things. They said they don't have the money. And somebody's brilliance decided that, hey, why don't we just collect from ourselves rather than put it down on the shelf? We say, why don't we just charge ourselves, every airline passenger, cruise line passenger that comes into Jamaica, pay a fee, and that is used to go into the fund, and the fund then used to finance the tourism master plan development. That was the Tourism Enhancement Fund was formed in 2005, 20 years next year. So since then, we have grown 30 times as an industry because we've been able to strategically, our board is made up of tourism stakeholders. We've been able to advance collectively as an industry because we have been resourced now from ourselves. And each year when it grows, the arrivals grow. It means more money goes into our accounts. Now, the problem we've been having as a country was that the rest of the government was borrowing money to pay its bills. And here you have funds like TEF collecting separately. And we weren't able, when I inherited TEF, we weren't able to execute our projects fast enough to keep up with what we were collecting. We were collecting more, so we started having surpluses and surpluses to the point where we had a whole department that was responsible for investing in financial instruments and that kind of thing. So the same commercial banks that we had our money in were the same commercial banks lending the government money. So they you know, smartly so, they decided, listen, TEF now since 2017 has to collect still, but we transfer it to the consolidated fund of government. And then for each of our projects for the financial year, we apply for the funding and we receive it. So whatever surplus is excesses, what we don't, they use it for other industries and so on. So health benefits, national security benefits from the TES funds now going to the consol fund, and what we get back is a fraction, just depending on what projects we have for that financial year. So what I would say is that I would see them not having the appetite to then tack on another fee to visitors coming in to then go to a separate fund, because they've already just moved to consolidate what was coming to TEF separately. So what I believe is that the projects know, because the country from an economic standpoint is in one of the best positions that's ever been, certainly in my lifetime. So it has the resources now. I think one of the things that have been limiting us since we have money now as a country is the execution. It's just the project execution. These processes just take so long. In public sector, you have something called public procurement. You have to go, which, trust me, coming out of private sector and coming into this, you just see how delayed. So with the best of intentions, with the budget allocated, it takes a process before you can then get things done on the ground. So what I would say is that still lobby for it. And once you can show the return on investment, I know our Minister of Finance, well, he's outgoing now, but he was keen on that the dollars spent investing in infrastructure or operations or services or programs in Jamaica, he wanted to see where the return would come back quickly. Because as you rightly so, as you can imagine, if you spend money out and it just creates white elephants and no return, then the next year the budget going to have to just spend money out. Whereas if those projects were turning back a return on investment, then you have more money the next year to continue, and the momentum continues, and we move right to developed status. And so I believe medical tourism is one of them. I think it will hinge on that bilateral agreement where their medical insurance, because that's when it will just, it's like a light switch. With the volumes that you'll now be open to, will just multiply exponentially. And I think once they work with that in tandem, then it would, I believe you'll find the funding allocated for its development.
Thank you, Dr. Wallace. We have some questions from our online audience, and because I think the first question was answered about the implications for the public health system, but one person is asking, what are the various career paths within the medical tourism field?
Well, various career paths would look at people who are providing the service. Like there are folks who are really into the herbs, know a lot about herbs that can heal certain conditions. We have the doctors, the nurses, and ancillary staff. So healthcare, in whatever facet you put healthcare, there are so many career paths that you could take. In fact, right now, there are nurses overseas who advise people on which destination is best to go to access care, like medical procedures or surgical procedures. So for our Jamaican here, who are looking career paths into medical tourism, it is so vast, starting with just someone who will just keep your company. Because when you're here from overseas and you've had a procedure, you may not necessarily need just a nurse who is taking care of you. You could just need someone to be there and do little custodial things for you, drive you around. So there's so many career paths that one could access looking into medical tourism.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. We also had, well, this person was asking about getting involved with this, you know, the impact for the public health system. But I think Dr. Wallace alluded to that already. The question I would like to ask of Dr. Smith is, what policies or systems you think the government would put in place for such a business like yours to really benefit and so that we can really become a major player in medical tourism?
Well, as a state, we always need policies and procedures that governs whatever area of practice that we're going into. And so the facility themselves, their policy and procedures would come out of that which the state have set. And then you have places that ensure policies over and above the standards that are set. And those companies are called accreditations. So the accreditation bodies would look at standards over and above that which is set. And so that would be my recommendation for the government to put together a group of people who set standards to impact medical tourism. And I'd also say that these standards can't be bipartisan. Both government has to agree to ensure those standards are adhered to even when the government has changed. Because, you know, that can be a problem when the government change, things change. So whatever standards that are put in place, I'd like to see those standards stay in place regardless of which government is in administration at the time.
Thank you. You'd like to comment, Professor Fulton?
Yes, I would totally agree with what you said completely. And I think too, that what's important when you look at standards to do with medical tourism, you take into account any special issues with medical tourists that wouldn't perhaps apply to the indigenous population, such as the importance of aftercare, which often is one of the issues globally, which can be overlooked in medical tourism. And of course, suitability of people to come for particular treatments. You know, there needs to be, for want of a better term, exclusion and inclusion criteria.
Thank you. Sir, you had a question?
Good morning, everyone. From the UCC alumni, I'm a member of the UCC alumni. Mr. Jai is there, of course. I'm very proud of him being president of this August body. And we go back from afar as being from the primary schools back in the days in this country. Good. No, what I'm saying is that I know the focal point here is on medical tourism, but I would like to look at it in a more general aspect in that for the locals on a whole as well. Because, you know, I'll just say I have an experience of which I flew into Montego Bay. I got sick at the airport. I was rushed over to the medical desk, and then they decided to transport me to the nearest point, which is the hospital there, and they treated me well. But okay, the impact of the bill coming back now, right, is that I have to pay at least $50,000 before leaving that hospital. What if I could not afford that? That's one aspect of it. And so the question I'd like to ask is that what are if the emphasis being placed on medical tourism in terms of the cost? And we're talking about tourism, tourists coming in here, and that's one of the closest point of hospital there. And if the hospitalization takes place and all of that, big impact. But for the Jamaicans on a whole, what sort of plans are there being put in place for with the insurance companies that they can look at it to have an hospital so close to the airport to accept what kind of policies, arrangements, and the affordability for our nationals. Thank you.
All right. Was the minister on the panel yesterday? So that question for the minister. But anyway, I'll give it a shot. So I think we have to kind of be realistic in terms of the situation we find ourselves in Jamaica, where our public health facilities would require a lot of improvements, upgrades, and so on to be on par with medical services that that our market is accustomed to. Now, it's one of the things where what comes first? Do we let the industry struggle with the low? In fact, our travel advisory that hurt us this year badly not only had the crime component, but had the lack of medical services component that really hurt us. So it comes at a cost. Let's not fool ourselves. To have the hospitals with all the latest machines and so on, they're very expensive and high maintenance and expensive to run and operate, more than our current economy can or could have maintained. I mean, it's just now that you're seeing the huge investments in healthcare. I mean, you see Cornwall Regional, billions of dollars of investment. They're also building a children's hospital in Montego Bay as well. Before they didn't have one in Mobay. You see the new wing in Spanish Town, the new wing in UWI going in. You know, any single year or period is the largest amount of investment in our healthcare infrastructure that's happening. But these things don't happen overnight, or it doesn't change overnight. So in the interim, the kind of best solution to keep the tourism industry attracting persons who want to feel safe when they're here. As I mentioned, the baby boomers are getting to that age where healthcare and those things are big considerations. And if you want to be still attractive to that market, you better be able to present where if something goes wrong on your trip, there is the standard. Now, here's the problem. They are prepared to pay for that high standard, whether through their travel insurance or their or just they just happen to have money. And so that has been kind of like the intermediate fix. These hospitals, and in Negril they have one, Omega, but they're like private hospitals that by nature are expensive and usually out of the region where the locals can afford. But the ideal solution is to get our public medical facilities up to the standards where our visitors feel safe just the same if they had to go to Cornwall Regional versus going to hospital. For now, we're grappling with those kind of challenges. The airport uses hospital as their supplier of medical services. So the ambulances, what happened to you, would take them to hospital first rather than taking them to Cornwall Regional, which I'm sure the cost would have been a lot less if it had gone to Cornwall Regional, but the standard may not have been as high as hospital. So that's just what we're grappling with now, but we are grasped with getting to that finish line where all our public services, and not just hospitals, but police stations and investigative prowess of the police. And we're as a country, all our public services are at first world standards. So that first world guests that come here don't feel any different. They're happy to come here because the standards for locals and visitors are high enough for them to choose Jamaica all the time over other destinations. And that's where we're moving towards, thankfully.
Thank you, Dr. Wallace. Are there any other questions? Yes, please.
Dr. Wallace, I think you preempted me somewhat, but I'll still say my piece. We do have medical tourism in Jamaica, but it's not incoming, it's outgoing. And it is because of the state of our health facilities here. We do have excellent doctors and medical professionals who could do well for our country if we had the facilities brought up to standard. The previous speaker spoke about hospital, and I had that experience with some visitors who came to a conference I was in charge of. If the problem now is we cannot have medical tourism from the perspective of surgical and, because our health system is giving our professionals a bad name. The health system in Jamaica is just ramshackle. I went to Cornwall Regional recently, and I was not very proud of what I saw there. And Montego Bay is the tourism capital of Jamaica. And I think the government ought to make the sacrifice. If there's even one good public hospital in the tourism area, make it so that people who come here get good service, and they would come here to get the medical care that we can give because we have the professionals who can give the medical care. And it would be cheaper for them. When they go to a hospital, it's out of the league. So we need definitely to improve. If we start with one and have a good medical facility, especially in the tourist area or somewhere along the North Coast, then we would be able to attract tourists or medical tourism to our country.
Thank you. Noted. Just one thing I would kind of pick up on. Just, as I said, I answered a lot of it before, but one thing I'll pick up on is when you said the government, you want the government to do it. And I think that's one of the culture changes I would really love to see with Jamaica, where our fingers are not pointing outwards to somebody else to fix, but recognizing that we are in this together. Ask not what my country can do for me, but what I can do for my country. Because the decision makers, the gatekeepers, the public leaders, private leaders are all Jamaicans, but still with the conditioning that maintains that colonial mindset. Meaning, we need to get to the point where our public services treat our people with respect as they deserve. So we're talking medical tourism hospitals here, but the police station is the same, fire station the same, all the transportation. It's just now that we are seeing those impacts, those new JUTC buses, for instance, all air conditioned and so on, where, you know, you can see the body language change of the persons who are now taking them, because public services are now showing respect to our people. I mean, let's compare it to the first world nation. A millionaire on Wall Street, you know, or in London now will still take the tube, you know, the public transportation, and because that's more efficient and respectful and timely and everything. Right? So yes, it's government that puts infrastructure in place, but it's the people that run them. And we need to get more of, because with the current infrastructure, with a change of mindset in our people, we can make those same resources lift the respect and the quality of service to our people. Because it's one thing to have infrastructure, it's another thing to have the service, the people part of the service around it. And we still are grappling with this concept that if you look a certain way, you're not somebody. So I can treat you in a way. I am executive director of a tourism enhancement fund, agency in the Ministry of Tourism. And I'll check into hotels and stand in the line, and to a white couple behind me, and they tell the white couple from behind me, I'm in a suit. And them in slippers and flip-flop, and them call them around me to care to them. The mental, the mindset, and especially with that one where all our problems must be solved by government, and if them don't solve it, we vote them out, vote in somebody else. And if them, all of them, no, the time has come for us to just recognize that to get this country to where it should be, it's us. And don't believe it's inundating for you, you're too small. No, each one can influence one. And no technology, again, gives us the reach. One good idea whose time has come of age can go viral. You don't need to go through middle people to the media, traditional media, TV, that kind of thing. You can get your message out. You can form WhatsApp groups, cores of people that have then influenced others. And that's the opportunity that we have. And I think I'm seeing the transition slowly, but surely. And if more of us can get involved, just from our chat groups alone. All of us here are in chat groups, yes? And 99% of the chat groups, so when they wake up every morning, then putting in today's problems, right? Today's drama. And then discuss it half of the day, and everybody tired and cuss who on one side, who on the other side, and then cuss and government and blah, blah, blah. And then them sleep. And the next morning, them wake up, it's the next drama. Lives can't tell whatever people. So some drama, and then them discuss, we're wasting, while we're sitting on paradise, wasting away. So let us change that mindset. Be the ones in those chat groups to be solutioneering, to be encouraging, to be forgiving, to be uplifting. They go and call it Pollyanna, and they go and say, boy, I'm so positive and all that. That's what they call me. But still, that's what's needed now. Be the heroes of today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wallace. Someone else had a question, I think.
Good morning. This question is more directed to Dr. Wallace. You had made mention about tourists being more interested in holistic wellness, well, health and wellness rather than medical tourism. And the question I have for you is, how does the Tourism Enhancement Fund plan to use the resources here in Jamaica to benefit and to get an advantage in that market?
Yeah, very good question. And we have invested, so in the Tourism Enhancement Fund, we have a department called the Tourism Linkages Network. And they are charged with the responsibility of building out all the passion areas that visitors want when they come here. So they go for sun, sea, and sand, but there are other passions they want when they travel. Now, Jamaica happens, being so diverse, we happen to have those passion areas, our gastronomy, our food, our shopping, our sports and entertainment, and health and wellness is one of those, what we call networks, linkage networks. And so we partner now. So we formed a linkages council that is chaired by private sector individuals. So Adam Stewart chairs the council, and on the council you have private sector leaders in their respective areas. So for the health and wellness, for instance, for sports and entertainment, for instance, it's Kamal Banki, who is the Dream Weekend guy. So they're the top Carnival, Exodus Carnival. They're the top Jamaican private sector people in entertainment. So we have them on the council helping to build out entertainment from a standpoint where it then makes Jamaica a destination high on the list of entertainees, entertain enthusiasts anywhere in the world. When they start thinking of a destination to go to, oh my God, Jamaica has it. Gastronomy, when all the food travel around the world for gastronomic experiences, when they look at Jamaica, they say, oh my God, they have a robust gastronomy offering, food and wine, food and drink, all these festivals that we have going around. Health and wellness is one of the networks that we have a team building out as well. So that's why we have the Health and Wellness Conference every year. That's why we have the spa workshops, partnering with Scientific Research Council and Bureau of Standards to build them out. That's why we have the app that allows those persons who come from wellness experiences to just go on the app, and wherever they are geographically, they can tell what's within a certain radius in terms of offerings to them and so on. So we support that. I recommend you go on our website, tef.gov.jm, and you can see like the next set of activities that we have coming up in that area. And we also provide funding. We have a facility in JN and Exim Bank, which is a subsidized interest rate, 4.5%, the lowest in the financial world now, that you can borrow for those kind of developments. And all it needs to have is 20% of your sales must be in the tourism space. So if you have something health and wellness already, you want to expand, that's a facility that we provided. We put $1 billion in there to on-lend to small and medium tourism enterprises who want to invest or expand in the tourism space.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Hi, morning everybody. First I want to just say thanks to UCC for inviting me to this wonderful conference. I'm Dr. Kaur from HYC Medical Limited, medical doctor by profession. And I'm proud to say that this fall I'm pursuing an MBA here at UCC in healthcare management. Really excited, really looking forward to that. Just have a few questions and comments. So Prof. Fullerton, you made mention of being in a situation where you were ill, you wanted quick resolution of your symptoms, I guess, to get back promptly to I guess you were on a vacation or so. The reason I'm bringing up that is I noted that Dr. Wallace made mention of the fact that the tourism ministry is more interested, if for want of a better word, in health and wellness. Well, I just wanted to ask about the acute care part to see sort of where the Ministry of Tourism is, where that's concerned, because a lot of tourists, they come sometimes and they fall ill and they really just want to get back to enjoying Jamaica. What's in place to sort of shunt them to like medical practices that will help them to do just that? I say that because this is on a background of the fact that I actually engaged Tourism Enhancement Fund. I think they had this incubator thing where I proposed a solution to that, where we could probably use digital means, perhaps build a website where tourists coming to Jamaica could fill out preliminary questions, which would involve like their past medical history, etc. So you'd have that information before they come, should in case they fall ill, we know exactly which practices are where in the surrounding vicinities so that we can actually promptly shunt them to those practices so that they could get back to their vacation. Is there any such thing in the pipeline or currently available for them to do that?
Right, yes. All right, so thanks for the question. So the current system that is set up in most of the tourism plans, most of the hotels, attractions, and so on, is that they would have to have like a sick bay in the property and to be able to provide some kind of relief, because a lot of time the visitors who come there is, they've just drank too much or smoked extra high grade or, something that that is not an acute emergency, if you know what I mean. Right. So they have that there, but they also now have that, what do you call it, Sean? That medium to be able to access more critical services. So they would have the ambulances on speed dial and that kind of thing too. And they would have a system that gets them to the medical facilities. It's most of the private ones that they have contracted now. So most of the large hotels on Montego Bay would send them to hospital, and most in the Grill would probably send them to Omega, primarily because, I mean, at the end of the day, you are in the business of making customers happy, of exceeding their expectations, whatever happens. Yeah, so you have a general service, food, drink, party, entertainment, that kind of stuff, water sports, all that stuff. But if something goes wrong, the hotel still has that in the back of their mind, that they want that guest to come out saying they were treated well, still become a repeat visitor, still post everywhere that they can, that it was a great experience and so on. And so each one of the decisions that they make, whether to send them to Cornwall Regional or whether to send them to hospital, that is in the back of their minds to say, okay, which one will deliver on the experience, albeit a bad, albeit challenging, but would not harm their reputation. In fact, can it maintain their reputation and help their reputation? So I think that's why they have that system currently. But everybody that comes here then has that feeling that if God forbid, if something goes wrong, there is a system in place to look after them. If it becomes really acute, there is an air ambulance opportunity to fly them over to Miami as well too. Of course, that's crazy expensive and so on. They would have to have lots of insurance, but all those are in place because we are a fairly mature industry compared to some of the other islands that's remote, and it takes a long while for the infrastructure to be in place, whether it's the transportation, whether it's the airlines, whether it's the air, but the air ambulances, those kind of things. We are a lot more developed where that's concerned in the Caribbean. So that's how we kind of get away with it. But as I said earlier, the ideal position to be in is where all our public facilities in Jamaica are just at the standard where they can provide a service. I like what you said about the solution where we use technology to, again, use the current resources to make it more efficient. So the online platform that you mentioned as well. And yes, we do this incubator. That's giving me a hint here. The incubator is meant to allow Jamaican entrepreneurs who have innovative ideas, or we provide and we pay for them to go through an incubator process so that they can take their ideas to where they have a product that they can commercialize. So that, I know we have a one that's very similar to what you just described, that actually won the first year's award. So I think afterward we can probably look at it and see where there can be synergies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do appreciate the fact that I think someone made mention of how expensive that is to get people to hospital and so, but I think that's where public private partnership comes in to allow, I guess, non-Jamaicans to be able to access in the interim while we get the public facilities, up and running. I think public-private
It's
partnership.
crucial because what I said about 30% of our arrivals staying in non-hotel accommodation, what it means, is that you are now having tourists dotted right across the length and breadth of Jamaica. And what it means, I mean, the good news is that it's opening up opportunities. That Rasta man in the hills, mountaintop right now, cooking cocoa to make coffee, tea off a coal pot is an experience that somebody who is in a concrete jungle cherish, and value like crazy. And if technology can allow us to allow that Wall Street money in coal New York to come into that Rasta man's hands for him just doing what he love doing, but they value it tremendously. But the infrastructure, they're gonna have to be a car to get him taxi to go up there. They have to be a Airbnb nearby to have him to stay, and they're gonna have to be a roads. They're gonna have to be. I mean, if that person gets sick, you can't say, "Oh, that's it. You're in the middle of nowhere." That say give them the last rites kind of thing. You're gonna have to, and technology can provide that. You not necessarily have to build out a hospital or a clinic right next to that Rasta man. No, but if that technology can tell you, boy, where the closest clinic or the closest hospital, medical care, to get that person to, it's using its current resources but providing the services that make it more comfortable, more safe, more secure for that visitor to be in Jamaica, and that's what we want to see more of. I mean, that type of tourism, in my head, can solve our antisocial problems, solve our crime problem, solve our harassment problem, because crime is just a symptom of the problem. We are behaving that way because that's the path that gets us the respect, the food, clothing, shelter, all the things I spoke about earlier. And so if we can replace that method with a pro-social method, following the rules, playing by the rules, being punctual, being hospitable, being truthful, being honest, being clean, all those social behaviors in the tourism space, especially the peer review space like Airbnb, is paramount. Those qualities are what make you thrive and make more money in that space. Whereas the antisocial behavior, lying, cheating, dirty, make up a whole bag of noise and cussing and aggressive and so on, those will make you fail in the tourism space.
Absolutely.
So here we're saying tourism is growing globally. Jamaica has all the assets to make tourism come here. But we're busy shooting one of the highest crime rates in the world. It's almost like having a very, very powerful vehicle, a massive engine, but we're driving with the handbrake up. So yes, we're moving forward and breaking records and so on, but we'll be driving with the handbrake of crime up. If we let down that handbrake, I promise you, nobody will stop us. We will be the #1 destination in the world. Jamaica. Promise you that.
Doc.
Yes. Sir.
Yeah. I'm wondering if you were saying you wanted like a network of providers that we could channel tourists to for acute care instead of sending them to the hospital?
Well, yes, that would be a part of it as well. So that was sort of what I envisioned, in addition to what Dr. Wallace was saying just now. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, so
So
you
it
were
would
looking
be-
at TEF to put together a network of providers like yourself who we could send tourists to instead of them going to the hospital, because their care may not need hospital care, but just a provider who can help them with a cold or a bite from an insect or something like that.
Correct. So that was the initial vision that I was thinking about, where we design like a website then called HYC Tourism, just to give it a name, whereby patients or visitors, for example, would just go on if they know, especially that they have like a medical history, we'd already have information. So the past medical history, quick stuff that a physician would need to be aware of in case something happens acutely, so that we can intervene promptly. And as you said, some of these things don't need
Hospital
hospital
care.
care, it can be delivered by a physician.
One of your
who
local
can-
physicians.
Right.
Okay.
And then in that breath now, I guess one of my colleagues was saying, everybody gets a piece of
Get
the
a
pie,
piece of
so
the
to
action,
speak.
right?
So that's where the Jamaican practices would come in to sort of shunt them so that we don't overload hospitals unnecessarily. So that's
Understand.
one of the things.
Because I have that in Negril. We have a particular doctor that we call up, and that doctor would even come on site to
Right.
see,
Like a home visit dental
Right.
tourist. Yeah.
to see the patient.
Right.
Okay.
One last question or comment, please. I'm gonna finish shortly. You made mention of tapping into the possibility of using, I guess, herbs and spices as a part of your thing. That kind of struck me because I think among some doctors who don't necessarily understand its use may frown upon it, but it's a booming industry now where persons are interested in alternative sort of medicine to maintain
Correct.
weight,
Right.
manage blood pressure and diabetes, for example.
Exactly.
And you'd be quite aware that the World Health Organization, for example, made mention of turmeric. You made mention of turmeric.
Yes.
Turmeric, there's evidence that suggests that turmeric can be used as a blood thinner, for example, in the appropriate patient. Of course, clearly, if you're on warfarin or some other blood thinner, you need to use it with caution, but that's where discussions would come in with the doctor. So I guess afterwards we can, have a conversation
Yes,
about
for sure.
how you go about doing that sort of thing.
All right.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And thank you, audience, for your participation. I think it made it a very, very, very interesting panel discussion. Oh, sorry. And he's so tall, I should have seen him.
Yes, for this question is for Dr. Wallace. For the health and wellness sector, what monitoring or even verification system is in place to ensure the quality of care and whether or not these persons or providers or services are authentic? And is there any, for example, accreditation system or certification system for these providers and facilities?
All right, good question. So yes, the answer is yes, we have the accreditation bodies. I'm not sure, I don't remember the name offhand, but there's an accreditation body that we partner with to make sure that the spas around Jamaica and so on, and those who provide those services who are in our program. And this is Jamaica, so you're going to have a man who we don't know about and in somewhere that's doing something on their own because it just grew organically. What we try and do is reach for them, pull them in the program, the Bureau of Standards, Scientific Research Council, get them to understand that they have to have their labels with all their ingredients. They have to have the consistencies. They have to document the process and so on. And Bureau of Standards and Scientific Research Council will do other checks to make sure it, from a health and safety standpoint, it is fine because you want the science behind it. One of the things that we are grasped within tourism is recognizing the nature of the reputation and how it's affected, meaning a tourist who is hurt anywhere in Jamaica affects tourism everywhere in Jamaica. A tourism who falls sick anywhere in Jamaica affects, when I say fall sick, meaning if it's any kind of breakout or epidemic or that kind of thing, it can crush our industry. So TPDCO, Tourism Product Development Company, has a whole team that's responsible for ensuring standards, what we call destination assurance, that ensures that we're not at risk. And but we're in Jamaica, there's so many, I'm saying hustlers, but not in a bad way. Persons who organically build out something and earning money. I mean, they have to survive. You can't blame them. And this is the way they're doing it. So but our job is to go in a facilitatory manner. We're not making it cost them. We're not just saying, hey, you need to get this certification, and you're going to cost so much, blah, 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 or we're going to shut you down. That's not our approach. Our approach is, hey, you have this, that's nice, and so on. We are going to pay for the certification process. You just need to come, bring your products, bring the things, show us how you make it, that kind of thing, and we'll walk you through getting that certification done. So that has been our approach, and it's been quite successful. Again, we are just lucky to have turmeric, to have black castor, have all these natural ingredients that the guests leaving is wowed by it and starts to brag and promote it and more come for it and so on. And we have built out of our services like that. That's why we've grown. We've just been growing every year. This year is a little flat so far because we had the travel advisory and then we had Beryl, but we expect to bounce back to where we are in a growth position very soon.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And, before I invite Professor Warren, I would just like to say, let us not knock everything that we have, because I had the opportunity to work with a prominent oncologist in Florida some years ago. He came to Jamaica, got a nasty cut on his foot. They took him, he even remembered the name of the hospital, the St. Anne's Bay Hospital. They treated him, and he said when he went in, didn't look like, fancy as a hospital in the US. But he had to be treated, so he did it. But what he said was he was thinking of changing his vacation plans to go back to the States. But he's a doctor, so he knows what to look for. He said after 24 hours, nothing. So he decided, okay, I'm going to stay. But what he said to me was, he said, Andrea, if I was in the States, they would have loaded me up with antibiotics, and the thing would have probably been infected anyway. But he said what he noticed was that sticking to the simple basic techniques prevented an infection. So, let us not knock it. It may not be all fancy and glossy, but we still have some good there. So I would just at this point, with deep gratitude, thank our esteemed panelists for their contribution to our second panel discussion. And I think which brought a lot of interest and enthusiasm. And so at this point, I would like to invite our Vice President, Professor Bernadette Warner, to just give a token to show our appreciation. Dr. Anya knew the technology is moving fast, so I'm sure at some point we'll be able to reach over and hand it to you. But for now.
Thank you.
Dr. Smith? Wallace? Professor? Or the branding? The journal, no? Thank you very much. But we just ask that you give us a few more minutes because Professor Fulton has something very special he'd like to share with all of us.
Hi, just to finish, I want now to introduce you to the Journal of Innovation, Entrepreneurship and Technology for Global Competitiveness. And this is a publication by the University of the Commonwealth Caribbean. And it's a way of celebrating the excellent work which is taking place within this university. I think we've all seen examples over yesterday and over this morning of the excellent work, the stimulating thought, the basis of scholarship that takes place within these four walls and within the wider UCC in Jamaica. And the journal is an excellent opportunity of celebrating this. It's also an important activity of academic life. It's a way of communicating with other professionals, with the wider academic community, the work that is taking place here. The review process that takes place within the journal is an excellent way of enhancing the work which has already taken place. And it's very, very important for the community. As we saw again, to reiterate what I've said, the excellent work which is taking place is a way of celebrating that and spreading that throughout not just the community and the world. And I'll just very briefly tell you an experience I had that I took part, or I conducted a research study a few years ago, and I published it in a journal and was quite disappointed that nothing, there was no fuss made about it. It just appeared and that was it. Fast forward 5 years, and all of a sudden one day I got an email from somebody in a university in Canada to say that they'd picked up on my work, they'd implemented a lot of what I suggested, and the implementation affected and improved the lives of a lot of people. And that was a tremendous experience. And that's the type of thing that can happen when you spread and disseminate your work. You can make links with other people, with other areas, and really begin to enhance and develop things. So I think without further ado, I would just like to ask, request, order, beg people to produce some work for the journal. I think we'd be very, very happy to receive papers that people have done based on their excellent work. And please do that. We intend to have the first edition out in March of 2025. And we look forward to, if this conference is anything to go by, we look forward to a very exciting and innovative journal. So please send papers in. And of course, if MD wants any help, if they want to discuss anything, I am the community at UCC are around, but please don't hesitate to contact me if you need any help, any advice, or just want to talk something over. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Professor Fulton. And just to remind you, we do still have activities for today. We have an interesting workshop, how to write for publication for journals. So those of you who have papers ready and trying to find your way, that workshop will be here this afternoon. And so we do ask that you hang around. We have students work upstairs that has been showcased. So please enjoy the rest of the conference. And again, I'd like to thank our panelists, Dr. Smith, Dr. Wallace, Professor Fulton, Dr. Anwon Yu online, and all our participants online. Thank you all very much.